Very good evening. You're watching Primetime News on TV1, live and direct from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. Bringing you the news, I'm Jayadni.
And I'm Rochelle Modra. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
No conspiracies will be allowed to derail the country's rebuilding process, says President.
මේ සත්භාවයෙන් මේ රට ගොඩනැගීම සඳහා යන ගමනට කිසි කුමන්ත්‍රණකරුවෙකුට ඉඩ දෙන්නේ නැහැ. නීති මත නම් නීති හදනවා. මේ රට ගොඩ ගන්න ඕන.
No agreement has been signed yet with the US on tariff reductions. Trump threatens 50% tariffs on India over ties to Russia. Farmers and fishermen must not be burdened. India emphasizes protection. A new bill to revoke privileges of former presidents submitted to Parliament. 11 Indian nationals arrested in Akuregoda, ordered to be deported.
And on to those stories in detail. In your top story this evening, President Anura Kumara Dissanayaka reaffirmed in Parliament that no conspiracy aimed at disrupting the nation-building process will be tolerated. He made this statement during a special address in the adjournment debate on the country's current economic situation.
If anyone is expecting this government to collapse due to economic instability, let me be clear, it will not happen. We've seen governments fall in three ways: through instability within Parliament, through public uprisings in the streets, and through election defeats. I assure you, this government will not fall through any of those means, unless of course we are defeated at an election. That I will accept. There's been speculation, will there be a new president in December? Perhaps that's what MP Kabir Hashim meant when he said Sajid Premadasa would be president in December. We all believe in upholding the rule of law and justice. There is no desire for revenge, no intent to punish anyone. But we are committed to ensuring that every citizen is equal before the law. Those who once believed the law would never reach them will now face it. Recently, a Navy commander was arrested. Some tried to spin it, claiming it was based on diaspora intelligence. But it was a court order. When a personal secretary is summoned as a witness, they know where to go. They know who's next. That's when uncertainty is manufactured. An attempt to destabilize the country before the law reaches them. This leads to hesitation among officials. But I'm proud to say that today, every official is ready to uphold the law. Whether inside or outside the government, we will protect them. I was told there was a protest planned at the Puldua junction. The security detail wanted to take a different route. I said, let's go through it. No one was there. A group had planned to gather in Puldua, another in Maharagama, but they didn't show up. There's no real strategy to bring this government down. Let people understand that. You may think this is a functioning state, but what we're actually dealing with is a criminal state operating beneath the surface of our legal and administrative structures. Let me be clear, we are confronting this reality head-on. We are fully aware of the deep entanglement between organized criminal networks and the drug trade. This is a national crisis that must be addressed, not with panic, but with precision. Senior DIGs are being intimidated through hired individuals making threatening phone calls. That's the kind of country we're dealing with, but we are committed to cleaning it up. No one should think they can escape justice. The law is in place. We recently seized the T-56 assault rifle in Kiribati. Pursuing that lead, we discovered 80 hand grenades hidden in a tank in Vaunia. All of them were intended to be transported to Colombo. What exactly were they planning? This is why we must recognize that conspiracies can emerge from anywhere, within the underworld, from defeated political factions, or through political manipulation. But let me be absolutely clear, no conspirator will be allowed to derail our journey to rebuild this country. If existing laws are insufficient, we will introduce new ones. This country must move forward. Should defeated politicians, fearing punishment for their crimes and loss of privileges, attempt to protect themselves through national level conspiracies, we will not allow this country to become a victim of their schemes. That's precisely why this government was formed, to prevent such manipulation. Yes, previous governments have fallen to conspiracies, but we are aware of the ones being plotted against us. We are investigating recent underworld-linked explosions. For example, Maharagama hasn't seen any shootings or bombings in recent times, yet one occurred just last night. What's going on? What are they trying to do? Whether from inside or outside the state, officials, politicians, members of parliament or outsiders, if anyone attempts to sabotage this nation-building effort, we will respond. There is democracy. There is media freedom. We will not suppress the media. Write what you want. Speak freely. But if you conspire against the state, we will take every necessary step to defeat you. I am saying this not out of emotion, but in response to a deeply troubling statement made about His Eminence the Cardinal. Some have sarcastically suggested that he skipped Easter Sunday Mass because he knew an attack was coming. That's not just speculation. It's a conspiracy. Anyone making such claims must be held accountable for every word. MP Uday Gamanpilla also made a statement suggesting that the Navy commander was arrested based on LTTE-related evidence provided by the government. That is false. The arrest was made under a court order. Do not distort the facts. We know when someone is knocking and when someone is beating the drum. If anyone, anywhere is planning a conspiracy, we will not allow it. I believe our state officials and even the opposition will support this effort in good faith. This is the task at hand. If there's a change, let it come. If Harsha becomes a minister, so be it. But there is no greater mission than this.
The President shared his thoughts regarding the process of reducing the tariffs imposed by the United States and the criticisms that have arisen around it.
මම දැක්ක දවස් දෙකකට පෙරත් තමුන්නාන්සලගේ ආර්ථික න්‍යායචාර්යද හර්ෂද ගොඩේවද මම දන්නේ ගොඩේ.
Just 2 days ago, I saw your economist Harsha De Silva, or Godaheva, I'm not sure. Is Godaheva still around? No, it was Harsha. Even 2 days ago, he was questioning whether this approach is correct, saying it's not 30% but rising to 47%. He said India's rate would drop to 15% or 20%. So it seems you all are constantly dreaming of an economic disaster for our country. A cruel dream, a destructive dream. Remember this, that destructive dream will not come true. Write that down. Start doing politics within a different framework. You all need to shift your political lens. The current one is flawed. Over 25% of our exports go to the United States. Similarly, nearly 60% of our apparel exports are destined for the US. That's why there was a real risk of affecting the direct employment of nearly 350,000 workers. We had no desire to dramatize this through media briefings step by step. We understood the depth and complexity of the crisis. That's why we continuously engaged in discussions and appointed a very capable team. We are proud to say that we successfully overcame this challenge. As a country, we managed to move past the crisis. The United States presented us with several proposals. We are currently in discussions regarding those proposals. I must clarify, we have not yet reached a final agreement or signed any deal. However, we have made progress in some areas of consensus. Still, we have not signed a final agreement with the United States, but we are grateful to them because as a result of these discussions, we have managed to reduce the tariff by up to 20%. We are still working to see if we can achieve that 20% reduction. Discussions have already begun. That's the decision we must take as a country. If we proceed as things are now, it could go up to 44%, as Harsha said. When I look at it, I see your numbers are a bit exaggerated. You said India will get it reduced to 15 or 20% and that there was an Indian delegation in the US discussing these. Our teams were also engaging in online discussions with their counterparts.
However, we clearly presented what needed to be done. We support the president, we support the effort, we love this country. When we do politics, we say these small things. You said it too. Don't deny it. We sat in the lobby and had extensive discussions, even criticized the government.
No, saying small things is what small people do. I have no issue with that. Small people will always say small things. No, Dr. Harsha, you're not small. But that wasn't small. Harsha, if that's the case, then we're left with nothing. According to what you said, the country should have collapsed today because of the tax rate that is being implemented today. The country should have collapsed. but that didn't happen. So no, those weren't small things.
පොඩි නෑ ඒවා.
The president also commented on vehicle imports.
අවුරුදු 5කට පස්සේ වාහන වෙළඳ විවෘත කරා.
After 5 years, we reopened the vehicle market. I remember many people said it wouldn't be possible to bring in vehicles like this. But what has happened now? As of yesterday, letters of credit worth $1.267 billion have been opened for vehicle imports. We expect that by December, LCs worth around $1.5 to $1.8 billion will be opened. However, there are conspiracies brewing. That must be said. There's an attempt to create a narrative that the government is planning to shut this down again. That's not true. Remember that there is a conspiracy to spread this idea and to draw back those who are waiting to enter the market. It's a tactic to create pressure on the dollar and to generate economic threats. That's why I've seen many people now creating news, spreading stories and saying in media discussions that vehicle imports will be restricted or stopped. So what happens then? People who plan to buy vehicles next year will rush to buy them this year. Why? To create pressure on the dollar, to create threats. Therefore, I want to tell all citizens of this country, we are not going to restrict vehicle imports. The market we have reopened will continue to operate as it is. If you can't buy a vehicle this year, you'll be able to do so next year. These threats are aimed to destabilize the economy. I urge everyone not to fall for such destructive tactics.
The president also addressed ongoing opposition claims about container releases.
You keep talking about containers. What container stories are these? Do you really believe that our comrade Bimal Ratnayaka is involved in container-related theft? What are you even saying? At the very least, consider a person's history, their political journey, and what they've stood for before making such accusations. If there's a genuine allegation, I've already appointed a committee through the Ministry of Finance. That report was not accepted by the committee in full. Nevertheless, I personally referred the matter to the Criminal Investigations Department. If wrongdoing has occurred, we will investigate regardless of which institution is involved. This isn't the first time such a process has taken place. It has happened 13 times before. You are now catching the 13th instance. If you go after the 12th, you'll find yourselves involved too. That's the truth. How many press conferences are being held about this? One person with a blue banner says one thing, another with a red banner says something else, another with a yellow banner says something different, and someone else speaks from their living room. Madness. Is this how media briefings are done? We, on the other hand, hold proper media briefings at our Palavatta office with political activists. We inform, we sit down, we discuss. But now one person says something from home, another from a hotel, another on the street, another from Sirikota, and another from your office. Someone else from the Pohottua office. Lies. Deliberate lies, just to feel satisfied. What really happened? Container releases have occurred 13 times before. This is a practice used when there's a congestion at the port. Whether it's right or wrong is something we are questioning. We'll examine whether it's legal or not, but that's the process they've used. This isn't the first time. It's happened 12 times before. Some claim that the Minister of Ports intervened. Then they say he did it. That container belonged to him. We don't make such assumptions. We don't speculate about who owns which container. What I'm saying is this. We've supported these companies to rebuild the economy. We've helped them. We don't know who owns which company, and we don't need to. That's not our concern.
A draft bill aimed at repealing the special privileges granted to former presidents was tabled in Parliament today. The primary objective of the bill is to remove the privileges that were granted under Act Number 4 of 1986.
ජනාධිපතිවරයන්ගේ හිමිකම් ඉවත් කිරීමේ 1986 අංක 4 දරන ජනාධිපතිවරයන්ගේ හිමිකම් පනත ඉවත් කිරීම පිණිස වූ පනත් කෙටුම්පතකි.
දිනුවර කිරීම කවදාද?
Tomorrow.
The Criminal Investigation Department informed the Columbbo Magistrates Court that steps have been taken to seek the Attorney General's advice regarding the legal action to be taken against MP Namal Rajapaksa and several other suspects.
A case has been filed against Member of Parliament Namal Rajapaksa, alleging that he committed an offence under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act by investing 15 million rupees allegedly acquired through unlawful means while functioning as an MP into a company named NR Consultancy. The other suspect in the case who reportedly acted as directors of the said company, Anithya Senani Samaranayaka, Sujani Bogallagama and Sudarshana Ganegoda. CID officers informed the Columbbo Magistrates Court that investigations into the incident have been completed and the files have been forwarded to the Attorney General's Department for further instructions. Since the Attorney General's advice has not yet been received, the investigators requested a future date to recall the case. Accordingly, the court scheduled the next hearing for the 29th of January.
This government came to work, but nothing has gone right from the beginning. They even found Chichi's rocket, so now the rest should also be exposed. What we say is, fulfill the promises made to the people and ensure justice for the citizens of this country.
Minister Vasantha Samarasinghe provided a clarification in Parliament regarding the Supreme Sat project which has been connected to former President Mahinda Rajapaksa's son Rohitha Rajapaksa. His statement came in response to recent criticisms made by Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya based on a clarification issued by the Board of Investment.
In the answer sent to the Prime Minister to be presented as her response, a story has been circulating since last evening that the Chichi rocket generated $1.5 billion or 3,200 billion rupees. There's been a statistical error. Member of Parliament, as for the satellite, its location cannot be found and the people who launched it can't be found either. I spoke to the minister in charge of our police and he confirmed it. Chichi has given a statement. You might not know this. Chichi has testified that he doesn't know about this and that what he did was a political task. We'll deal with the testimony later. There's a case. We'll sort that out later. The topic of this satellite came up and I have to say now we have to investigate this. Why? Because it's shown that a 12,000 million rupee investment was made. They also say that 2 banks in China provided loans. Sri Lanka has the right to send a satellite into space for information dissemination. This company hasn't submitted its accounts to the BOI since 2022 because if they say this satellite cost $300 to $320 million, there's a story that they took a loan of more than 285 to 290 from a bank. That story also needs to be confirmed. And they say a local company invested in it. The amount they invested is 12,000 million. We need to find out who invested that 12,000 million. How did that 12,000 million disappear by the second year? It should be in the accounts. This is the income. It is not even enough to cover the expenses. It's running at a loss. When they gave the answer to respond to a query on such a company, it was the Prime Minister's response. The institutions that send these answers have to be responsible for them. Therefore, officials have made a mistake in providing the answers. That mistake needs to be corrected. So MP Ravi, the company's income for these 7 or 8 years is only 342 million rupees, not 342 billion. The launched satellite can't be found. From the second year onwards, they've abandoned both the asset and liability sides of the account. If they tried to take an advantage from the Prime Minister's statement, sorry, we have corrected those mistakes. It's not just about launching a satellite. Investigations are also ongoing into the people who have stolen public wealth in this country.
News First with the people.
The Governor-General of Australia, Samantha Joy Mostyn, held bilateral talks with President Anura Kumara Dissanayaka this afternoon. The meeting took place at the Presidential Secretariat.
During the meeting, there was an extensive discussion on strengthening the more than 75-year-long friendship between Australia and Sri Lanka, and on opportunities to expand existing areas of cooperation for the mutual benefit of both countries. Australian Governor-General Samantha Joy Mostyn emphasized that Australia is ready to provide continuous support for a successful journey for Sri Lanka under the leadership of President Anura Kumara Dissanayaka. The Governor-General specifically highlighted Australia's readiness to provide the necessary assistance to strengthen Sri Lanka's economy. The President noted that their visit will further strengthen the friendship between Australia and Sri Lanka. He recalled the direct support provided by the Australian government during the tsunami disaster and the recent economic crisis, as well as the assistance channeled through international institutions. President Dissanayaka also appreciated Australia's ongoing support in Sri Lanka's economic, educational, defence, tourism and maritime sectors. The President emphasised that a favourable environment has been created in Sri Lanka for Australian investors.
In a sweeping move that has rattled global trade, US President Donald Trump has imposed steep tariffs on Indian imports, raising India's rate to 50% over Russian oil purchases and announced a 10% tariff on foreign-made computer chips. India condemned the action as unfair and unjustified, while Brazil turned to BRICS allies and the WTO support.
US President Donald Trump has issued an executive order hitting India with an additional tariff of 25% over its purchases of Russian oil. That will raise the total tariff on Indian imports to the United States to 50%, among the highest rates imposed by the US. Now, the new rate will come into effect in 21 days, so on 27th of August, according to the executive order. Now, the US President had earlier warned he would raise levies, saying India doesn't care how many people in Ukraine are being killed by the Russian war machine. On Wednesday, the White House said in a statement that the Russian Federation's actions in Ukraine pose an ongoing threat to US national security and foreign policy, necessitating strong measures to address the national emergency. It said India's imports of Russian oil undermine US efforts to counter Russia's activities in Ukraine. It added that the US will determine which other countries import oil from Russia and will recommend further actions to the president as needed.
Please. Indian officials have said that there are other countries that are buying Russian oil.
It's okay.
Like China, for instance,
It's
buys
okay.
more.
Yeah.
Why are you singling India out for these additional sanctions?
It's only been 8 hours. So let's see what happens over the next.
More secondary sanctions
you're going to see a lot more.
So this is a taste of
You're going to see a lot more. You're going to see so much secondary sanctions.
China facing potential secondary sanctions for Russian oil. Then having that tariff or sanction rather or not hinges on what going forward?
It may happen. I mean, I don't know. I can't tell you yet, but we did it with India. We're doing it probably with a couple of others. One of them could be China, yes.
Are you keeping that 10 to 12 day deadline that you had given Russia after today's talks?
Yeah, we're pretty much getting close to it right now, but we're having very serious talks right now about getting out of Ukraine, getting it settled, getting it ended. Should have never started, would have never started. If I were president, it would have never started. I want to thank Tim Cook. He's a great man, a visionary, a businessman, just about every quality he can have other than athleticism. I don't know about that. I'm looking at him. I'm not 100% sure about you. You're a good athlete. I'll bet you're pretty good. I think he's good at everything, but I want to thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, guys.
A response from India's foreign ministry on Wednesday said that Delhi had already made clear its stance on imports from Russia, and reiterated that the tariff is unfair, unjustified and unreasonable. The statement said that it is therefore extremely unfortunate that the US should choose to impose additional tariffs on India for actions that several other countries are also taking in their own national interest. It added that India will take all actions necessary to protect its national interests. Oil and gas are Russia's biggest exports, and Moscow's biggest customers include China, India and Turkey. Russia is now the biggest seller of oil to India, accounting for more than 35% of India's overall supplies. As US tariffs on Brazilian goods jumped to 50%, Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said that he saw no room for direct talks with US President Donald Trump which he believes would turn into a humiliation for him. He also said he was planning to call leaders from the BRICS group of developing nations, starting with India and China, to discuss the possibility of a joint response to US tariffs. The government of President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has petitioned the World Trade Organization for consultations to help alleviate the steep tariffs imposed on Brazil by the United States. The aim is to seek relief from the 50% tariff that US President Donald Trump slapped on Brazilian exports in response to the country's prosecution of a former far-right president, Jair Bolsonaro. US President Donald Trump said that he will impose 100% tariffs on computer chips, raising the specter of higher prices for electronics, autos, household appliances, and other essential products dependent on the processes powering the digital age. The announcement came more than 3 months after Trump temporarily exempted most electronics from his administration's most onerous tariffs. The Republican president said companies that make computer chips in the US would be spared the import tax.
US President Donald Trump could meet in person with Russian President Vladimir Putin as soon as next week as he seeks to broker an end to the Russia-Ukraine war. The White House said Trump was also open to a meeting with both Putin and Ukrainian President Zelensky.
Donald Trump proclaimed great progress toward ending the Ukraine war after announcing plans to meet soon with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Trump's boiling frustration with Putin, who has tarnished the president's hopes of becoming a peacemaker worthy of the Nobel Prize, evaporated after his envoy Steve Witkoff emerged from a 3-hour meeting with the Kremlin strongman.
Yes, Mr. President, have Putin and Zelensky agreed to a summit yet? And where and when would that be?
Well, there's a very good prospect that they will. And we haven't determined where, but we had some very good talks with President Putin today. And there's a very good chance that we could be ending the end of that road. That road was long and continues to be long, but there's a good chance that there will be a meeting very soon.
Mr. President, what was the breakthrough today? Did Vladimir Putin make some kind of concession that he hasn't been willing to make before?
I don't call it a breakthrough. I mean, we've been working on this a long time. There are thousands of young people dying, mostly soldiers, but also, missiles being hit into Kiev and other places. But in terms of soldiers, I think Russia's lost over 20,000 since the beginning of the year. 20,000. And I guess the estimate for Ukraine is about 9,000. It's a terrible situation. We want to get it stopped. We don't have American soldiers there, but I feel I have an obligation to get it stopped. This was not my war. This war would have never started, not even a chance. And it didn't start for 4 years. It went 4 years and it didn't start. But this is Biden's war. This was on his watch.
Following the Putin-Witkoff meeting, Trump told European leaders on a telephone call that he wanted to meet soon, potentially as early as next week with Putin, followed by trilateral talks with the Russian leader and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. No location has been settled on, but several options are under discussion, according to the White House. It said the talks could happen as soon as next week or within the next 2 weeks. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said in a statement that Russians expressed their desire to meet with President Trump and the president is open to meeting with both President Putin and President Zelensky. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit China to attend the regional Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Tianjin City from the 31st of August to the 1st of September. Prime Minister Modi's last visit to China was in 2019, but he had met Chinese President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the BRICS summit in Kazan in October 2024. The visit comes amid the imposition of stiff tariffs from US President Donald Trump and increasing pressure on India regarding oil purchase from Russia. There is expectation that under the circumstances, India's recalibration of ties with China is expected to act as a balancing factor for the US. There is a possibility that Prime Minister Modi will have bilateral meetings with Russian President Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the summit. Established in 2001, SCO aims to promote regional stability through cooperation. The bloc currently has 10 member states: Belarus, China, India, Iran, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Russia, Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi reiterated that India will never compromise the interests of its farmers and fishermen, even if it leads to economic consequences. He said the government sees farmers as the foundation of the nation's progress.
हमारे लिए अपने किसानों का हित.
For us, the interests of our farmers are the highest priority. India will never compromise on the interests of its farmers, livestock rearers and fisherfolk. I know I will have to pay a very heavy personal price, but I am ready for the sake of our fishermen, our livestock rearers. India stands ready today.
मेरे देश के पशुपालकों के लिए आज भारत तैयार है.
On to more local news. The Columbbo Magistrates Court ordered the immediate deportation of 11 Indian nationals who were arrested in the Palavatta Akuregoda area based on intelligence received by the Sri Lanka Air Force. Additionally, each individual was fined with 100,000 rupees.
11 Indian nationals were apprehended on the 4th of this month while residing in a house located in the Akuregoda area. During the raid, authorities recovered 3 laptops and 20 mobile phones from their possession. Among those arrested were 3 women and 8 men, all aged between 20 and 40 years. They were presented before the court the following day, where a diplomatic officer was also present. On that day, the suspects were charged with involvement in illegal betting and money laundering activities. They were remanded and held at the Thalangama police station and were presented again under a separate charge today. This time they were accused of conducting business activities while on tourist visas. Charges were filed under Section 45 subsection A of the Immigration and Emigration Act against the Indian nationals. Diplomatic officials were present at the court premises today as well. Legal representatives stated that the suspects' tourist visas are valid until the 9th of September. However, the house in Akuregoda where they were staying had been rented for a period of 1 year. Today in court, all 11 Indian nationals pleaded guilty to violating immigration laws. Accordingly, Chief Magistrate Bandari Rangasinghe of the Kaduwela Magistrates Court ordered their immediate deportation. Until deportation is arranged, they are to be held at the Valisara Detention Centre.
Rajiva Bandaranayake, Chief Executive Officer of the Colombo Stock Exchange, states that a significant number of active investors are now entering the stock market. He noted that by the end of July 2025, the market had grown to a value of 6.7 trillion rupees.
දැනට ලක්ෂ 8ක පමණ ගිණුම් දැනට විවෘත කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒ ගිණුම් වලින්
approximately 800,000 accounts have been opened to date. Of these, around 260,000 accounts currently hold shares. An average about 45,000 of these are considered active investors each month. This reflects the daily turnover. The total value of transactions conducted within a single day in the stock market as of July 30th, 2025, the daily turnover has increased to 4.6 billion rupees. We have observed a sharp rise in both transaction value and volume this year compared to last year. In 2023 and 2024, the average number of daily transactions was around 14,000. However, during the first 7 months of this year, the average daily transaction count has risen to approximately 26,700. This indicates a rapid and notable growth in market activity.
වැඩිවීමක් මේ වර්ෂයේ ගිය වර්ෂය තුල.
The final Ramdoli Perahera of the Kandy Asala Perahera is set to parade through the streets tomorrow night. This morning, the booklet prepared by Sirasa and Newsfirst for the Kandy Asala Perahera was officially presented to the Mahanayaka Theras.
Before presenting the Sirasa Namami booklet to the Mahanayaka Theros, representatives of the Sirasa Media Network paid homage to the sacred tooth relic. The booklet, which features depictions of the sacred relic, was edited for the Sri Dalada Maligava by K. Migaha Kumbara.
වසර 20කට අත කාලයක් තුරාවට සිරස මාධ්‍ය ජාලය මගින් මේ ශ්‍රී දන්ත ධාතුන් වහන්සේගේ තියෙන පරම පූජනීයත්වයත් ඒ වගේම ශ්‍රී දළදා මාලිගාවේ තියෙන මහර්ගත්වයත් මතු පරම්පරාවට දැනට ගියා ගන්නට හොඳම අවස්ථාවක් හැටියට ග්‍රන්ථයක් වශයෙන් මම විසින් රචනා කරන ලද සිරසානාමී කියන ග්‍රන්ථය වාර්ෂිකව එළි දැක්වීමට කටයුතු යොදනවා.
The book was first presented to the Most Venerable Tibbatuave Sri Sumangala Thero, the Mahanayaka of the Malwatu chapter of the Siam sect. Chief Executive Officer of MTV Channel Private Limited, Yasarat Kamal Siri, Sirasa TV Director and Director of Religious Affairs of the Sirasa Media Network, Dharmashri Ekanayaka, Director of Public Relations, Priyantha Vijay Singha, and Newsfirst News Manager, Umaya Kovilagodage, were present at the occasion. The Most Venerable Thero also expressed his wish for the book to be published in English. The booklet was also presented to the Venerable Dimbul Kumure Sri Vimaladharma Thero, the Anunayaka of the Malwatu chapter of the Siam sect.
අපි හැම අවුරුද්දකම ඉතින් මේකාපුර මහත්තයත් එක්ක එක්කහුවල පොත එලි දක්වනවා. ඉතින් ඔය සිල් ගන්න ඇවිල්ලා ඉන්න නැත්තොන්ට පෙරහැර බලන්න ඉන්න ඇවිල්ලා නැත්තොන්ට අපි ඔක බෙදනවාද?
අලුත් සමාජයට දැනගන්න පරණායකයන් ලිය යුතු දෑවැද්දා. සිරස මාධ්‍ය ජාලයට ඔතුමන්ලා මේ කරන සත්කාරියට අපේ නවඩ ආශිර්වාදය.
The group then met with the Most Venerable Varakagoda Sri Jnana Ratana Thero, the Mahanayaka of the Askari chapter of the Siam sect, and presented the booklet. They also handed over a booklet to the Devadane Nilame Pradeep Nilangadale and distributed the booklet among devotees who had come to pay homage to the sacred tooth relic.
The chariot procession of the Columbbo Arival festival commenced today.
Special pujas and religious rituals were observed this morning at the Sammangodu Sri Kadirvelayuda Swami Kovil on First Cross Street, Colombo Fort, marking the beginning of the Arival festival. After the ceremonies, the statues of Lord Muthukumara Swami with goddesses Valli and Devasena departed in a decorated chariot towards the Bambalapitiya Kovil. As the chariot passed the Presidential Secretariat, Presidential Secretary Dr. Nandika Sanat Kumar Nayaka and Fisheries Minister Ramalingam Chandrasekhar paid homage to the statues. At the Indian High Commission, High Commissioner Santosh Jha and officials welcomed the statue of the deity and joined in religious observances. As the chariot neared temple trees, Prime Minister Dr. Harinya Amarasuriya and other dignitaries paid homage and joined the rituals.
The historic Nalur festival.
The Manjam festival, marking the 10th day of the annual grand celebration at the Nalur Kandaswamy Kovil in Jaffna, took place today.
This evening, following the Vasanta Mandapa Puja, the Manjam festival was held to mark the 10th day of the historic Nalur Kandaswamy Kovil annual festival in Jaffna. After the rituals, the statues of Lord Muthukumara Swami and the statues of goddesses Valli and Devayani were taken in a procession. A large number of devotees gathered at the sacred grounds of Nalur to witness the Manjum festival.
GDP around $30,000 billions, 30,000, but in Sri Lankan context we are just only 80 billions.
And one of the economic principle also say, with the trade, everybody better off.
Now, why he has reduced 44 to 30? That's what my point is all about, right? He's not playing kind of a trade game with us.
Now only the government, we are seeing that the provincial council election has completed and the people are appointed, but now only the infrastructure projects are being, the money is being deployed.
Face the Nation every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. on TV1.
5 people were injured in a shooting incident reported in Sahaspura, Burala. Police spokesperson ASP F.U. Wootler stated that 2 men on a motorcycle opened fire at a group of people near a stadium before fleeing the scene. According to police, the shooting was carried out using a T-56 firearm with around 20 rounds fired by the suspects. The injured are currently receiving treatment at the Columbbo National Hospital. And moving on, Ceylon United Business Alliance, formed during the COVID-19 crisis to support Sri Lanka's SMEs, launched its website in Colombo.
Ceylon United Business Alliance, a non-partisan group supporting Sri Lanka's SMEs since the COVID-19 crisis, launched its official website in Colombo yesterday.
For the last 76 years of our rule, why does politicians always think we are naive and gullible and fragile? Don't forget, we are the economical backbone of this country. We are the strength behind the country's economical survival. If we were to fall and collapse, any country's economy will collapse. The sustainability of this economy lies upon the SME organization in any country.
Foreign Minister Vijitha Herath, speaking at the event, commented on the government's agenda.
Our agenda is clear: to connect Sri Lankan producers, service providers and innovators to international markets through structured policy-driven and mission-backed export facilitation. As part of this vision, we have proposed that our diplomatic missions abroad become active trade gateways, providing Sri Lankan entrepreneurs access to global platforms. Whether it be cinnamon-based exports, spice processing tools, copper and brass hardware, batteries and energy components, or fisheries-related equipment, these are not simply commodities, they are extensions of our craftsmanship and heritage. This is more than trade, it is strategic diplomacy in action. We are reimagining the role of diplomacy as a partner to entrepreneurship, as enablers, not merely observers of economic resilience. The launch of Cuba International is therefore not symbolic, it is structural.
I am happy to say the insolvency law will be enacted this year. I am happy to say that development banking as a concept will be built this year. I am happy to say that we've been able to bring in the Anti-Dumping and Countervailing Act within this year, and also the tariff policy, which is going to help you to ensure that your input raw material will be less taxed. So these are some of the policies that we could do within this framework. We are in a framework of IMF in a country where we are recovering.
Chair of the Committee on Public Finance, Dr. Harsha De Silva, also spoke at the event.
Where do we have long-term finance? If you really look around, what is the size of the Employees Provident Fund? Something like 4 trillion or 4.5 trillion. And it invests 95 to 96% in government securities. ETF, who he was the chairman once, I think it's about 1 trillion rupees. Where do they invest? They hardly take any risks. I am not saying that the Provident Fund should take undue risks, but they invest about 5-6% in the stock market anyway. So I'm going to propose to you one thing. I'm going to propose to you that we look at a certain percentage, X% of these long-term funds and create a facility so that Bank A, Bank B, Bank C and D can access that for development banking facilities on a long-term basis.
Speakers highlighted the need for a bold, locally grounded global strategy, the importance of aligning diplomatic and financial systems to support exports, and the urgent call for structural reforms, equity financing, and a resilient ecosystem to empower Sri Lanka's SMEs. Hambantota officially unveiled Shangrila Road, the new road leading to Shangrila Hambantota. The event featured the formal unveiling of the road signage, followed by a reception where stakeholders highlighted how the designation will improve wayfinding for visitors while symbolizing the growing integration of the property into the fabric of the region. Government officials, representatives of Shangrila and community leaders were present at the event. Shangrila Road is now part of Hambantota's map, boosting the city's profile as a top destination in Sri Lanka's south.
And that's a wrap of your news for tonight.
Thank you for watching.
Good night.